the Indian Prime Minister Modi took advice and danced and sang in Israel for the benefit of the US president. It's terrible news as an Indian citizen to see this, because the Prime Minister is the representative of the Indian people. He's the honor, the president and the Prime Minister are the honor of the country. Can you imagine if this has happened to any other opposition leader? If such a charge had been brought against Rahul Gandhi, if such a charge had been brought against Akhilesh Yadav or Mamta, the press would have gone to town. There would have been blanket coverage from morning till night for months. As in the past scandals with Rafael and Dassault and with the scandals of Adani, etc., this news will also be suppressed and will not be publicized by what is called Godi media, that is the Modi-controlled media in India. Epstein met some representative of an Indian Prime Minister. Now, why would a Prime Minister, sitting Prime Minister of a country, be in contact with a convicted sex offender? Mr. Epstein, several of his contacts were actually all Jewish contacts. The New York Jewish community is very powerful in finance. He also, in the 80s, makes connections with powerful Jewish financiers in London. Mr. Trump claims that he didn't have much interaction with him, but that's not true. There's well documented, and in fact, much of these documents that have been released now, yesterday and in the past, have been redacted. And some people believe Trump has pulled his own name out of it. Trump is angry about the fact that when, on his behalf, Vance and Marco Rubio mediated in this crisis, what's called the India-Pakistan crisis of 2025, that is called this Operation Sindoor. The Prime Minister didn't acknowledge that, because if he acknowledged that, it would have worked against him adversely in the domestic political arena. And so he didn't acknowledge that. And we know that they intervened because Trump was the one who announced the deal first. Mr. Adani has been indicted and arrest warrants have been issued on a criminal and a civil case. The civil case is by the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the criminal case is by the Department of Justice. And this was not under Trump, this was more than a year ago under Biden. It's public knowledge, it was photographed everywhere that when he was flying from Gujarat to Delhi for his inauguration in 2014, for his swearing in, he came in Adani's private jet when he was eligible to come in a government jet. And repeatedly you will see that whenever the Prime Minister goes, Adani gets deals. Welcome viewers, there's been some mind-blowing information released yesterday. About 5 million pages of Epstein files have been released. Some of it has, of course, been redacted, but there's some information there which is truly mind-blowing. That is, he claims in an email that he wrote, in which he mentions something about Qatar and financing terror and whatnot. He mentions that the Indian Prime Minister Modi took advice and danced and sang in Israel for the benefit of the US president. They had met a few weeks ago. Full stop, it worked. I know this might seem like a short sentence, but this has great depth and great meaning. And I just found it unbelievable, having been in this area of international relations for decades now, that a Prime Minister would seek advice, might be indirectly, might have been through Hardeep Singh Puri, who's now a minister in the government. He was earlier India's ambassador to the UN. He's also a former youth member of the ABVP, that is the student wing of the RSS and BJP, where he was friends also with Mr. Arun Jaitley, the former finance minister, who was close, very close to Prime Minister Modi. In fact, in earlier documents, those meetings have been mentioned in the earlier tranches that were released. But now in this one, a couple of pages earlier, it is mentioned that he met some representative of the Indian Prime Minister. That is, Epstein met some representative of the Indian Prime Minister, and then this information, this line is added. Now, why would a Prime Minister sitting Prime Minister of a country be in contact with a convicted sex offender? It blows my mind. I have no idea, but I can only speculate. And then he says that Modi sang and danced for the benefit of the US president, and my advice worked. Now, this email is kind of dated to July 6th, 2017. Indian Prime Minister, had just visited Israel a few days earlier, and just 2 weeks earlier, he was in Washington. So, to understand the arc of what this means, I have to explain something about Mr. Epstein, and then a little bit about Prime Minister Modi and his behavior in the past. This is very important information because I'm 100% sure that, as in the past scandals with Rafael and Dassault, and with the scandals of Adani, etc., this news will also be suppressed and will not be publicized by what is called Godi media, that is the Modi-controlled media in India. Now, let me explain a little bit first about Epstein. Who is Epstein? Epstein was convicted in 2008, so about 9 years before this. In fact, he himself admitted through a plea bargain that he had been soliciting sex from a child, that is a 13-year-old, that he had been soliciting prostitution. So he was kind of a convicted sex offender. And why this happened was that the mother of a 13-year-old had put a case against him in the Florida courts in 2005. At that point, the prosecutors went easy on Epstein because they were told that he has high-level connections. He's also an intelligence asset. And they gave him an easy deal. He was in jail, in custody, let's say, for 13 months, out of which he used to get a lot of work leaves and used to, so he didn't fully get punished for his offenses. But he was about to get punished finally in 2019 when he was arrested, finally, when hundreds of accusers came out. But he is supposed to have committed suicide in prison. Why am I saying supposed is that his body was found hanging. But when a lot of pressure came, the FBI said that they were releasing unedited video of his time in prison. But there was about 2 minutes, 53 seconds missing. So almost 3 minutes missing from that footage. So we don't know whether it was, and there are all kinds of conspiracy theories about whether he actually did commit suicide or he was kind of targeted by some powerful people. This happened in 2019. President Trump was at that time the president of the United States. Epstein himself started his career, say, in 1974 with a job at a private school in New York called Dalton's. There also he was accused of inappropriate interactions with young girls. And he gets fired in 76 from that job for professional reasons. But why he got the job in the first place is possibly due to connections, because he was not qualified to be a school teacher, high school teacher. And then he joins Bear Stearns because some of the children that he was teaching, some of them, 2 of them had a parent in Bear Stearns. He goes into Bear Stearns. There, he's very close to one of the top bosses. He dates his daughter, gets promoted, etc. But from Bear Stearns also, in less than 4 years, he gets fired. By 1980, he's out of Bear Stearns for inappropriate financial dealings. He works first what he himself calls as a bounty hunter. He tries to recover people whose money has been embezzled by others. And then he's also working in a firm which kind of ran a Ponzi scheme. And that firm collapsed. And then he finally went solo. And he became very close as a financial advisor to 2 of the top guys in this period. One is a certain Mr. Black. Again, the other one is Mr. Wexner, the owner of, among other things, Victoria's Secrets. Both Mr. Wexner, Mr. Black, and Mr. Epstein, several of his contacts were actually all Jewish contacts. The New York Jewish community is very powerful in finance. He also, in the 80s, makes connections with powerful Jewish financiers in London. And by some accounts, he is working for the British intelligence also at this time. And in fact, he is found to have an Austrian passport showing him as a resident of Saudi Arabia. without him ever having lived in either of those two countries. So how did he get that? Well, possibly, again, there was intelligence, either Austrian intelligence or Mossad, etc., which helped him. We know this because Austrian intelligence is very close to Mossad because they've also helped a lot of Syrians from the Assad regime who lived comfortably in Vienna because of forged Austrian documents. So he has this kind of track record. He's worked with, was very close to Ehud Barak, also, the defense minister of Israel, and then the prime minister of Israel. Ehud Barak went on to become the prime minister. So he deals with Mossad. He deals with various intelligence agencies, and throughout this period, he's also, goes through several young ladies as partners, and maybe other things as well. In fact, when he was working for Wexner, and he had an important position in his foundation and in his firm, Epstein used to pretend to be a talent scout for Victoria's Secrets, and through that also he got many models and younger age women. He exploited them. All this is well documented. You can Google it and find out. You can go to the New York Times articles. You can go through any place else that you think is reliable, Wikipedia, whatever you want. And he has this track record that throughout the 80s, he's also a good friend of President Trump. They used to go to parties together. They used to, in fact, make bets about who would seduce a particular woman first. So they were kind of hunting as a pair sometimes. And in competition, Mr. Trump claims that he didn't have much interaction with him, but that's not true. There's well documented. And in fact, much of these documents that have been released now, yesterday and in the past, have been redacted. And some people believe Trump has pulled his own name out of it. So he was close to Trump. We know this also. And things go smoothly for him in the 1990s. I'll give you an example. Just from Black and Wexner, from each of them, he earned at least around $200 to $250 million. And of course, he acted as a broker in many other cases. And Ghislaine Maxwell is his partner in these crimes. He's close to Prince Andrew. He's close to the tech bros like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. I mean, yesterday's documents show that even though Elon Musk denies taking up Epstein's offers, they show him kind of interacting with him about a possible trip to Epstein's island in the US Virgin Islands, where Epstein had bought an island. And the reason he had bought this island was it would reduce his income tax by about 90% that he had to pay in the US. On these islands, he would supply these girls, as he would in New York as well, to big guys, Prince Andrew and everybody that you could imagine in the top echelons. So now Epstein used to also often advise governments indirectly, the Mongolian government, there's that, he's got these various deals. And as I told you, Israeli government, even Netanyahu he had interactions with, but he definitely had quite a detailed and long interaction with Ehud Barak. He met him more than 30 times. And in this process somewhere between, say, 2014 and 2017, he was interacting with Hardeep Puri. We have the minister that I mentioned. At that time, he was not a minister yet, but you can see that he was very close to the government and was India's ambassador to the UN. And the email that has been released yesterday seems pretty authentic for 2-3 reasons. The first is he's giving advice to Qatar, some broker for Qatar, but you have to fix your image and this so-called terror financing image that you have. I think they're referring to Hamas, and that you should put up a $1 billion fund for victims of terror, and that will fix your image along with other GCC countries, etc. And he's saying that the Qatari foreign minister is inexperienced and all that. And in that, he gives this piece of advice that my advice to Indian Prime Minister Modi has worked, and that he is, as I pointed out, sung and danced for the benefit of the US president in Israel, that seems to have worked. So it's in keeping also with Prime Minister Modi's behavior, electorally speaking. So he likes to show that he's very close to world leaders. You would have seen many videos of him hugging everybody from Obama to President Trump and Biden and all these world leaders, Putin, etc. Whereas he never hugs anybody in India among the leadership. He is willing to laugh with them, backslap, bum chums. He laughs also for things which nobody would laugh for otherwise, just to show the camera, that back home his audience. And I've seen this myself in my interactions. I'll give you an example of a truck driver that I met. He was a former truck driver, but he had become a daily wage laborer. I met him. He was working as a daily wage laborer, and this is about 2019. And I asked him, "Would you vote for who?" And he said, definitely for Prime Minister Modi, because he had made India great again, and he had elevated our status abroad. This was a truck driver who himself said that due to demonetization and due to GST, his trucking business had kind of liquidated. He couldn't pay off the debt on his truck, and he had been reduced. But he felt that for India, and I felt sorry for him, because he felt that genuinely in his heart that India, he wanted India to be great, and he felt that Prime Minister Modi had achieved that, and he was going to re-vote for him. Same thing, I met an uncle recently who told me that, Modi, be careful, he's captured and won't let go a British jet, which is parked even now at Kochi. This was a few months ago. A British F-35 jet had developed some snag and could not land on the carrier, and instead had to land in Kochi, and because of various technical difficulties, it couldn't take off. But among the loyal WhatsApp bhakt following of the Prime Ministers, this had been projected as if, Modi had captured a British plane and was not letting go. Such was his command. Or another guy who met me just the other day in the park told me that, the Trump used to think of Prime Minister Modi as his elder brother, used to respect him and used to do everything accordingly. But now look at him. He's, misbehaving, and he has to be fixed. And that is, Trump would consider somebody as his elder brother. It baffles the imagination. And then they were conducting havans and pujas for him. So it is in keeping with this thing, getting close to powerful people, maintaining it. But for what? Every US president has been close to India since Bill Clinton. That is, whether it was Manmohan Singh or Vajpayee or Modi himself, they have all had good relations with all of them. There was no need for this going the extra mile, unless it was for domestic electoral purposes, to improve your image and get close proximity. The second is, why get so close to Israel? It's very interesting. India has had very close relations with Israel since Narasimha Rao's time. We have been buying weapons, getting intelligence, communication equipment, everything since the early to mid-90s. So this explains also something about the ideology of the Prime Minister and the RSS and the BJP. That is, they believe that Israel is ideologically very close to them, they believe, which is not true. That's not the view of the Israelis. But they believe that they might be Muslim haters like them, and they have taken, therefore, bulldozing strategies, bulldozing people's houses, etc., firing people from their jobs, which is quite often happening in Kashmir, etc., blowing up people's houses, etc. All these techniques have been taken from Israel. And and the closeness to Netanyahu, etc., was also a way to get close in their minds with Washington, because they know that the Zionist Jewish lobby has immense power in Washington. So to get close to the US, get close to Israel, Do we need to be that close to the US? I mean, it didn't work out, right? They still imposed 50% tariffs on us because they don't care. Trump doesn't care about all this, He's ultimately interested, A, in what he can get for himself personally, B, what he can get for his MAGA base, He's nobody's bum chum. He's nobody's buddy. He's a hard-nosed New York, Manhattan real estate shark, And that's what he's focused on. So, in fact, it might have worked the opposite way. It might have been by ingratiating yourself so much, by bending so low. You gave the message to Trump that, hey, you can push me over, because Trump is a bully. If he sees somebody bending, he'll push him further. Trump only resists when or holds himself carefully when you push back. So there was no pushback. And maybe also Trump is angry about the fact that when he and on his behalf, Vance and Marco Rubio mediated in this crisis, what's called the India-Pakistan crisis of 2025, that is called this Operation Sindoor. The Prime Minister didn't acknowledge that, because if he acknowledged that, it would have worked against him adversely in the domestic political arena. And so he didn't acknowledge that. And we know that they intervened because Trump was the one who announced the deal first. We know that because repeatedly US presidents and US government has mediated between India and Pakistan, right from Bill Clinton in the Kargil episode. So this was nothing new, and this is the main reason. Trump doesn't care about Russian oil. He's very close to Russians. He's not worried about us buying some Russian oil. He's angry also, of course, about the tariffs that we have imposed on American goods, which we have imposed on everybody in the world. We are a very high tariff economy, over 100% tariffs in automobiles and motorcycles and all of that. So Trump knows that, and he called us tariff king even in his first term. But the real thing which probably made him angry, this is my analysis, is not acknowledging his role, mediation in the Sindoor crisis. So it hasn't worked, this thing with him. And it won't work with Netanyahu also. See, Netanyahu is a businessman, and he's also a shark, realist shark. He's concerned about selling weapons, And he would have sold us weapons anyhow, whether we were close to him or not, because before him for 20, 30 years, Israel had been selling us weapons, And even if Israel doesn't sell us, we can get similar quality of weapons from Taiwan, from Japan, from Sweden, from so many sources, from the US itself, which is willing to sell us. So it's not like, we are so obliged that just because they are selling us some weapons, we have to bend over. And it's seen in our international behavior also, the way we have not spoken up. This government has not spoken up on Venezuela or on Gaza, not spoken up even on Ukraine. It shows that, we have become very transactional. And that's the way others are perceiving us outside. So coming back to the point that we were talking about, that look, if you think also that, hey, this sounds totally out of character, then that's not true. That the Prime Minister would be in contact with a convicted sex offender. I'll give you two other examples. In the Rafale deal, when India purchased the Rafale jets, the Dassault Aviation, there was an offset clause of 50%. That is, 50% would have to be manufactured in India or produced or whatever. And the opposition took that up. Why was it given to Anil Ambani, who had no experience? His company had absolutely no experience in making aircraft, instead of giving it to Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. We were told that this was completely Dassault's decision, the French decision, whereas François Hollande, who was the French president at that time, until 2017 he was president. In 2018, in an interview, he said that the request had come from the Indian government to keep Anil Ambani as the partner, offset partner. But the Supreme Court didn't accept that. It accepted some sealed envelopes and sealed notes, and it rejected the petition that there had been kickbacks in this deal. I'll give you another third example with Mr. Adani. Mr. Adani has been indicted, and arrest warrants have been issued on a criminal and a civil case. The civil case is by the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the criminal case is by the Department of Justice. And this was not under Trump. This was more than a year ago under Biden. It happened in November, December 2024. But the Indian government has still not served those summons and notices. Twice they have rejected submitting them. So then the SEC went again to the court last month, saying that please enforce through other means delivery of these. And before the court could take a decision, yesterday's news is that Adani's lawyers, who are some of the most highly paid lawyers in New York, have accepted the summons. And it's very serious charges of bribery and embezzlement and misrepresentation. That is a bribery charge of $265 million to be given for a solar project in India to government officials, and misrepresentation to Adani's American investors. So they're calling it bribery and fraud. These are the allegations. They're very serious allegations. But we know that in the past, Adani has been sold land up to 14,000 acres in Gujarat for 1 rupee a square meter, between 1 rupee and 30 rupees a square meter. And in the case of barren land, it was at 10 paisa a square meter. So we know that their association has been long. In fact, it's public knowledge, it was photographed everywhere that when he was flying from Gujarat to Delhi for his inauguration in 2014 to take for his swearing in, he came in Adani's private jet when he was eligible to come in a government jet. He chose that. It was a clear signal. And repeatedly, you will see that whenever the Prime Minister goes, Adani gets deals. Whether it was in Australia, whether it was in Israel with the Haifa port, whether it was in Bangladesh when Hasina was in power, he got these energy agreements which are selling energy at a very high rate to the Bangladesh. In fact, there have been protests there several times that why is such expensive energy being bought? And it's only yesterday's news that actually Adani, who had briefly halted energy transfers, has increased sales and in Bangladesh energy sale. Because you see, no matter who the government is, business keeps getting done. So what I'm saying is that these allegations are also not out of character in any way. There's a track record of it, but it's terrible news as an Indian citizen to see this. Because the Prime Minister is the representative of the Indian people. He's the honor, the President and the Prime Minister are the honor of the country. Can you imagine if this has happened to any other opposition leader? If such a charge had been brought against Rahul Gandhi, if such a charge had been brought against Akhilesh Yadav or Mamta, what would have happened? The press would have gone to town. There would have been blanket coverage from morning till night for months on every TV channel, on every newspaper. But now there's not a pipsqueak out of anybody. It's terrible news. It tells you how totally the media is controlled in India. It tells you what an image is being presented to innocent Indian citizens. And it tells you what is the state of our investigative agencies, of our judiciary. It tells you the state of the politics at play. And it's not a good sign for any developing country or even for any developed country. So I leave it to your better judgment. But I will keep presenting these facts to you, which you may not get in any other media source as explicitly as here. All of it is well documented, and I have provided you most of it. The rest you can Google yourself and find out. Thank you. Keep watching.